Vivian Francis Bulkeley-Johnson, March 1891 to February 14, 1968, was the aide-de-camp to Victor Cavendish, 9th Duke of Devonshire, the Governor-General of Canada from 1916 to 1918. He served in the offices of the Imperial War Cabinet in World War I from 1918 to 1919, and in the Air Ministry from 1919 to 1922. Bulkeley-Johnson, who was affectionately known as BJ, was born in March 1891 in Belgravia, England. He was the only son born to Francis Head Bulkeley-Johnson, 1864 to 1933, an English barrister, and Helen Percy Stoughton. His maternal grandparents were Charles William Stoughton of Ballynoe, County Kerry, Ireland, and Percy Georgina Laura, née Gossett, Stoughton. His great-grandfather, Thomas Anthony Stoughton of Alpen Park, was the High Sheriff of Gloucestershire. Bulkeley-Johnson was educated at Eton College and Balliol College, Oxford. In 1912, he gazetted to the 2nd Battalion Rifle Brigade and then served in India from April 1914 to September 1914, followed by service on the Western Front in France during World War I, from November 1914 until March 1915, where he was wounded at Neuve-Chapelle on March 10, 1915, during the Battle of Neuve-Chapelle, in which it was captured, not for the first time, by the 4th Indian Corps. Bulkeley-Johnson was gazetted captain on 5 October 1915. Following his recovery, he served at General Headquarters for the Home Forces from April to November 1916. From 1916 to 1918, he was one of 3 aide-de-camps who came from England. Bulkeley-Johnson, then 25, was aide-de-camp to Victor Cavendish, 9th Duke of Devonshire, the Governor-General of Canada. He served in the offices of the Imperial War Cabinet for World War I from 1918 to 1919, and in the Air Ministry from 1919 to 1922. From 1922 until 1930, he worked as the London agent for cotton merchants, and from 1930 until 1952, Bulkeley-Johnson, then a distinguished-looking gentleman with a disabled leg, was a banker in London where he looked after the charitable activities of the Rothschild Bank. On June 11, 1924, he married Serial Penelope Diana Catherine Williams Bulkeley, daughter of Sir Richard Henry Williams Bulkeley, 12th Baronet, who served as the Lord Lieutenant of Anglesey from 1896 until 1942, and Lady Magdalen York. Serial's maternal grandfather was Charles York, 5th Earl of Hardwicke, and her uncle was Albert York, 6th Earl of Hardwicke, the Bachelor Under-Secretary of State for India from 1900 to 1902. They divorced in 1947. On October 13, 1949, he married the divorced American heiress, Cornelia Stuyvesant Vanderbilt, in a brief ceremony at the Kensington Registry Office in London, and remained married to her until his death. Cornelia was the daughter of George Washington Vanderbilt II and Edith Stuyvesant Dresser, and the mother of George Henry Vanderbilt Cecil and William Amherst Vanderbilt Cecil from her previous marriage to John Francis Amherst Cecil, the first Secretary of the British Embassy in Washington, who was the son of Lord William Cecil and Mary Cecil, Baroness Amherst of Hackney. From his second marriage, he became incredibly wealthy and lived in a 4-story brick home in Kensington, and on a 240-acre farm in the village of Churchill northwest of Oxford, known as the Mount, where he took an interest in inland waterways, running a company that operated boats on the Oxford and other canals. Bulkeley-Johnson died on February 14, 1968 in England. Bulkeley-Johnson was a collector of Chinese art, which included a series of ceramic wares ranging from the Neolithic period to the Qing dynasty. Upon his death, he donated his collection to the Mount Trust Collection of Chinese Art at the Victoria and Albert Museum.